Suppose there was something that could tie together all of the counterintuitive phenomena and make it intuitive, emotional, even cathartic for better and worse. Nojima-san spoke with intense purpose in his Ultimania revelation. In the Rebirth Ultimania, Nojima-san unveiled a remarkable eureka regarding the background fabric of the reality of Gaia. He studied Jung's collective unconscious and the Buddhist Yogachara as he began to flow with the trilogy's story. This is part 2 of exploring what this means for beloved heroes whose horizon of journey's end holds no promises to be made. Part 1 is an overview of these 2 sagacious means of exploring reality, the collective unconscious, and all is mind, from the mouths of people steeped in their wisdom. Herein, this second part, direct parallels will be drawn and open observations made, with a few what-ifs sprinkled on. In Final Fantasy VII, questions could begin to arise that related to what reality on the world of Gaia is, that the Nibelheim flashback and the remembrance of Zack's last stand were both warped to impossibility due to the unstable narrator, made intuitive sense in the Sector 5 church when Cloud runs into himself, or during the pivotal Mind Prism sequence when Tifa repairs Cloud's memories. That Cloud or anyone can exist in 2 places at one time can be felt without effort. Traveling amongst the planets of Bugenhagen's lecture requires no explanation, as this is VR. Though all of these instances and others, such as Cloud hearing a voice in his head during the first bombing run, describing the reactor that he's on in which he should have no prior knowledge of, none of these run counter to the way we think things should work. It's all the same universe but with different worlds governed by different laws. The worlds are all interconnected and seem to rely most heavily on the world of Final Fantasy VII, Gaia. But when Cloud remembered how he defeated Sephiroth by breaking the laws of Gaia's 3D reality and doing so without Mako or S cells in his blood as far as we know, either there are superior laws dictating space-time, such as Final Fantasy VII Gaia also being a dream, or Cloud was still the unstable narrator in remembering this critical moment. However, in Crisis Core, which is not told from Cloud's perspective as far as we know, how Sephiroth is defeated is accurate to Mr. Strife's memory. Cloud broke reality. And a mere week later, from their perspective of time, during the height of absolute tragedy, it reigns in a church underneath the Sector 5 plate, which should be impossible. There are superior laws, such as entanglement being a measure of how beings separated by time and space can be irrevocably and infinitely connected, much like quantum entanglement. And now entanglement is a word being used by the creative director, Nomura-san. It's one of my favorite words, as it helps explain why the whispers surrounded all of Midgar, emotional entanglement. In the Yogachara, a mind for a hero or villain can influence universal mind. For instance, space-time, just as in a dream. In Jung's collective unconscious, this universal mind greatly influences said heroes and villains. Everything is connected and interdependent, a two-way street. If only a being has the awareness and power to affect this. Taken into this context, Genova Sephiroth being able to fly without wings is consistent. In the Yogachara philosophy, at the center of creation is a form of compassion that transcends all barriers and beliefs. As the great Sufi poet Rumi said, love connects all things and is all things also. Caring about others gives one ascendance in the Yogachara. In Final Fantasy VII, in the Nibelheim reactor, Cloud's speech about all the people he cares about, his selfless attempt to help a fallen Zack, gave this being of unlimited potential the power to defeat a fallen hero. Likewise, at the end of Advent Children, when Cloud talks of cherishing everything, he finds the power to defeat an insane immortal revenant. And the notion of everything being consciousness, formations of something in the life stream, possibilities that come together to form story, is emotionally, palpably set. Hoo-yah! And this is before the 2015 trailer. 23 years later, Remake from the very outset seems to have a foreboding memory. The first image we see is a black bird, which has black feathers. Soon thereafter is a dying yellow flower with falling petals, with another yellow flower being crushed not long later. Though Jung's collective unconscious relates to how people's awake and sleeping minds are influenced by this universal field, the collective unconscious, and in turn how they influence it, in combination with the Yogachara's idea that all is mind, there is no separation from mind, there are only many different aspects of it, it could then be seen that the world of Remake is being influenced by this collective unconscious, also known as memory. In Remake, the appearance of separation between 3D reality and mind is blurred yet further. Cloud witnesses things that no one else can see, that are presented by many different means. And from a classical perspective of things being separate from each other, this still can make sense because everything is happening in Cloud's head, i.e. it's fiction, not fact. However, this idea begins to fall into question when one becomes aware of the dreamlike aspect of reality presented all the way back in Final Fantasy VII. Hallucinations, for instance the Sephiroth ones, can no longer be safely considered as only hallucination separate from everything else. Fact and fiction begin to blur. Not only are these two sagacious ideas cool, but they allow a certain level of groundedness in situations where otherwise bizarre phenomena is unfolding. For instance, when Sephiroth takes Cloud to the in-between and shows what Sephiroth is saying at the very least is the true nature of reality. However, for the reason for this groundedness is that all of these worlds are governed by laws that can be intuited, whether it's a mind prism, the surface of Gaia, or a snowboarding simulator. A danger lies in associating the differences between these worlds in our multiverse to also apply to this multiverse. For instance, it would seem intuitive that there's a distinction between these realities such that a person who is in the world of dream cannot deposit something into 3D reality, nor can a consciousness transfer in totality from one type of world to another. However, this distinction is not accurate before a sufficiently powerful and aware force, such as an Omni Half-Cetra, Gilgamesh, people that I call Dreamweavers, which I believe also includes Zack, as we see him creating multiple worlds, and Cloud, because Chadley described him as a being of infinite potential, as well as a myriad of other mysteries that have beset Mr. Strife from the very beginning, such as breaking physics. In the blurry planescape of Jung's psychology and the Buddhist all-is-mind philosophy, Wedge is able to sense destiny, not a specific outcome as Aerith demonstrates, but a general notion of how the future is going to feel. Feelings. Remember, at the City of Ancients, Sephiroth needs Cloud to be overcome with loss. Feelings. A key potential in understanding Sephiroth's endgame and how he came to conceive it, so presented by the collective unconscious, is this ability for individuals to be affected by the mass unconsciousness as well as the other way around. Everyone on Zack's world, the Terrier timeline, believes the world is ending. There is a rift in the sky, and what plants had not already died due to desertification were wilting, though others were sprouting. Whatever the reality of a rift being present is, the pervasive conclusion was doom. On the dream date, this collective belief appears to have reached a crescendo. As it is so pronounced, people uniformly express that they believe the end is nigh. And the one-winged angel refers to this world as one where people have accepted their fate. The end is nigh. Considering once again the Yogachara's philosophy that everything is an aspect of mind, there is no separation from it, it becomes very possible that the dream date world is ending only because people believe this. And Zack's resurrection has led him to an unforgiving pursuit of a future where the end of the world is in people's hands, not out of it, whereas Sephiroth wishes for people to despair helplessly. We observe Sephiroth turn light into dark with the crystallized ball of Gi hatred in hand and a moment of extreme loss cresting. By varying levels of awareness, this reality of the collective unconscious, the Yogachara, is greatly influencing people's directives, their endgame, what they want to do. The one-winged angel seems to understand this nature of reality to a hitherto unprecedented level. In describing all is mind and the collective unconscious, the example of the Matrix is often used. In a computer program, all is programmed, including you. There is no separation, only the illusion of separation. In the Matrix, it is literally a shared dream, and one with grounded, relatable rules. However, these rules can be modified by those with necessary power and awareness.
What you must learn is that these rules are no different than the rules of a computer system. Some of them can be bent. Others can be broken.
And now Evercrisis is introducing this idea that VR is a form of dream or reality. This nature of all these worlds being inseparable, collective unconscious, all aspects of mind that minds exist in has shaped everything about the Remake Rebirth anthology. True power to execute upon whatever endgame has come from the ability to weave these dreams. When Omni-Aerith wanted to talk to Cloud, despite that an embodiment of her was in Shinra Tower, she was able to use the all-is-mind awareness to have a very emotionally poignant conversation with Mr. Strife. On the dream date, Aerith was finally able to do what she has been talking about since Cloud literally fell into her life, and she was able to force a Dreamweaver to make choices. I will be going into this in the ending deep dive. There's a reason that Aerith wanted Cloud to make those choices, and she gave a fully functional Holy back to herself in another dream reality, and only then to find itself on Miss Gainsborough on the Rebirth Gaia. When Cloud could suddenly see the whispers, and forever afterwards so could we, even when no one was nearby to offer this perspective, such as Zack's last stand. And when whispers would react to a change in Cloud's consciousness, the flow of 3D space-time was revealing itself to also be one of mind. Otherwise, we would not be able to see the whispers at this sad scene, and the whispers would not magically know when Cloud's consciousness was changing. All is mind, with minds entangled within. This odyssey of oddities, this not-so-rare reminder that the field predicts the particle, there is something more to all of this, extends as well into Ever Crisis. In the First Soldier possibility, which does take place in the Beagle timeline, Glenn Lodbrok has a vision, dream, something. We don't actually know what it is, but it's accurate to a future event with a version of Sephiroth he has never met. And this dream, this reality, this possibility, this world is seen from an omniscient, impossible vantage point, as even the one-winged angel questions how Glenn could know what he knows. Mr. Lodbrok is also a Dreamweaver of sorts. And Cloud's dad, sorry, something stuck in my throat. Cloud's dad. And anyways, for the record, I'm not attached to him being Cloud's dad or not. I just thought it's a really cool theory because I love Glenn. Seeing Glenn, this seeming bumbling oaf, and this hyper-intelligent, tortured child named Sephiroth interact with each other, for me, is priceless. People have been doing unexplainable things with increasing regularity. Each one a red pill, a reminder, an affirmation of what Nojima-san said in the Ultimania. However much this resonates with you, whatever research is done, a question one will likely come to is, what is a world? We know that the worlds of Rebirth are not parallel worlds, which would be a series of spacetimes with linear paths that function mostly in discontiguous manner to each other. Perhaps some of these worlds, or things that are in these worlds, are in fact illusion, though in a multiverse of mind, there is no such thing as an illusion separate from everything else, no more than there would be in the Matrix. Perhaps in fact all worlds are dream, since Aerith and Sephiroth use these words interchangeably. Observing Zack's world that Sephiroth laid waste to, it doesn't have a linear past, and it seems to be formed from construed available elements, wherever they found themselves to be. Why was Cloud not amongst the wreckage survivors? Because he was with Zack. A moment in multiversal memory at Singularity's end, just like all of the moments in the credits or in Chadley's arc. One of these moments was the beginning of this reality, the Terrier timeline, for many of those within it. This reality feels very much like a dream, but then so does reigning in a church, starting an electric power company on Spira, seeing the future, rifts in the sky, and defying physics. All is mind. Perhaps worlds are all not so different from each other and share an absolute similarity. They do have laws in and between them. They're grounded, you can feel them. There are consequences that can be anticipated relative to results, except for when Sephiroth or the Whisper steps over free will and obliterates meaning. But that aside, we know that there are laws, even relative to someone of the awareness and power of Sephiroth, because he needed the black materia for reunion. He needs someone with infinite potential, such as Cloud, for whatever reason. These worlds, all of them, are interconnected, interdependent aspects of consciousness with collective memories, which sounds a lot like Sephiroth's description of the life stream in Ever Crisis. These worlds, however they present themselves or came to be, can connect via radio, such as at the beginning of Rebirth. Objects can be passed between them. People can die in them. Consider that the world that Biggs was shot in did not exist until Zack reached a point where he needed to make a decision, just as the world Zack found him in did not exist until after Singularity. And individuals of sufficient awareness and power can not only directly change reality, but also weave this planescape. And by observing Zack create new worlds, we know that no matter how many embodiments of a person, there is only one consciousness of them. Likely, a given consciousness can only embody once in a given timeline, what I've been calling the rule of one. However, as a brief romantic aside, it is conceivable that in a hyperplane such as the Mind Prism, where we witness more than one embodiment of Cloud exist simultaneously and able to interact with each other in such a hyperplane, if you had an individual of grotesquely dimorphic opposing selves, such as Sephiroth, Ore, and Watashi, we might find an answer to the question, what would happen if the irresistible force was forced to fight the irresistible force? In closing, why would Nojima-san unfurl a revelation of this magnitude now? He gave us the blueprint of reality. This is Morpheus handing the red pill to Neo. We likely won't know until Journey's End, if then, but perhaps the one-winged angel did give Cloud the black materia for a reason. Consider, in Final Fantasy VII, Eris had the white materia until the City of Ancients, and the Nakai carried the black materia until Northern Crater. But in the Remake Rebirth continuum, the same person, a Dreamweaver, wields both, gifts from Omni beings who themselves are Dreamweavers. Jung's collective unconscious and the Buddhist Yogachara open up a wide, infinite vista of unknown possibility, terror, and hope, to be explored in next week's deep dive of the ending on May the 4th, where I will not answer, but I will ask, taking all of this into consideration. If you had the necessary power, what would you do to save someone you love? Imagination Adventurers, until next time, I bid thee adieu.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it? The dark side. And the light.
We trust you. Just remember, we got everything riding on this. And that's a load you'd best be ready to carry.